All right, so absolute value right here is the exact distance a number is away from 0. So when it comes down to there, we're going to have two answers because we're going to have the positive and the negative of that distance away from 0. So the very first thing, and I think probably in judging some of the conversations that we've had in teaching this, the thing that people struggle with first is they do not clear the absolute value, which means that what we have is we have a 5, an 8 on the absolute value. So we have to get those off before we can break it apart into two pieces. Okay? And so for us to truly know what the absolute value is going to generate, we got to have it by itself. Once again, the thing we struggle with the most, as I've seen your intervention quizzes for 2 chapters now, is solving equations. Either we're like going to stand firm in the sand and say, I'm going to continue not know how to do it, or we're going to have to move forward and say, you know, it's something I don't do well. What can I do to improve it? Now, here's the thing that I've seen happen for you. You would combine those two numbers right there. Why can I not combine those two numbers?
Because that's
There's 2 separate operations going on here.
The A is being multiplied. You have to do the please excuse me right from bottom to top.
Bottom to top. Order of operations from bottom to top because we're solving the equation for the absolute value. Now the reason why, which some of us will still want to combine that and get -3, is because it looks like they're subtracted from each other. There's 2 separate operations going on here. There's subtraction and multiplication. And so if I work it from bottom to top, I know that to clear it, I have to subtract the 5 first, because adding and subtracting happens first. And that gives me -8, absolute value, -2n, equals -80. The absolute value is still not cleared yet. We have a multiplication of -8 on it. And so to clear it, I have to get it off of there. And that gives me a +10. Okay? And now that I have the absolute value cleared, I can break off the absolute value and I can find the -10 of it, and I can find the +10 of it, because the distance of -10 from 0 and the distance from +10 from 0 is still the same thing.
Okay, so that's where I went wrong this whole time. Instead of waiting until the absolute values got off of it and changing it to negative, I did it at the very beginning like I did.
You set both sides right here. You didn't clear it. That's what I'm saying. The most common mistake that I've seen or have been, and I don't know if that happened from Friday with me not being here, but here's how you need to look at it, is it's better for me to figure out on this set of problems before I did it to my test.
How did we get, like, since, I'm pretty sure we all did that, did it from the original problem?
Mhm.
How did, on some of them, we got the same answer?
Because you didn't have anything
On them?
on it.
Okay.
When it had nothing on it, it worked out.
why is it -2?
Say it again.
I said, why is it -2? I thought it was like.
Okay, so you're asking why didn't it change to +2 because it's inside the absolute value? Is that what you're asking? What's going to happen is we need to know the value for n, because still inside the absolute value, -2 is going to be multiplied to it, right? And so after we find that value, and then when we multiply it to it, we'll get the correct answer that will give me -10, and the absolute value will change it then. You don't change it from the +2 yet. It happens after we find n, and I'll show you, okay?
Coach Walsh, why'd you switch them around like that?
I don't have to. I just made it easier for me to know that this side of the number, I do it because this side of the number lines the negatives, and that side of the number lines the positives. So that's what it looks like for me. You don't have to. You could write it the same way. Okay? And so I'm going to solve both sides. It gives me -2, or -10 divided by -2 is going to give me +5. And then I'm going to divide by -2 here. That's going to give me -5. Okay? And now, to answer the question that we were asked about why didn't I change it to from -2 to +2 because it was inside the absolute value, is because of this right here. I'm going to go back, because is 5 and -5 distances? Are those the distances that 10 is away from 0? No. It's 10 spaces and 10 spaces. Do we agree with that? And so what we get when we find the values for n are the input variables that's going to generate 10 or going to generate negative 10. And so I'm going to plug them back into my original, and you'll see why then we don't change it until the end. Okay, there's that one for my positive 5. Oh. Write it again down here. Here's my negative 5 one. And both of them are still going to generate negative 75 because the distance from 0 to 75 and negative 75 is the same value. So we're going to plug them in, and then we're going to find it. So inside the absolute value makes negative 10 right there. And that's where this negative 10 comes to where I set it equal to negative 10 right up here. What's the value for negative 10 in the absolute value? Makes it positive 10. Okay? And so what I get is I get 5 minus 80. Does that equal 75? 5 minus 80. Does it equal negative 75? 5 minus 80 doesn't equal negative 75? Yeah. All right. And so that works for us. And up here, and this is where we turn the absolute value into positive. It's going to give me a positive 10. And as you can see now, my positive 10 and my negative 10 is what we broke them into two different pieces right here. So that's where they still show up. And so does 5 minus 80 still equal negative 75?
Yes.
It does. All right, and that's why we split them into two pieces right here.